UFC boss Dana White has been taking it from all angles regarding fighter pay recently after influencer turned boxer Jake Paul called White out for what he regards as a pretty poor contract and healthcare system all around. The comments came in response to the Francis Ngannou situation, which everybody seems to have an opinion on at the moment. Today, we're discussing Ngannou lashing out against White over UFC contracts, so stay with us. First up, let's have a quick look into what UFC fighters actually make. As you are probably aware, as long as you haven't been living under a rock, the sport of MMA has seen a huge boom over the last decade or so and is easily one of the fastest growing sports in the world today. But it is still a relative baby in relation to other more established sports such as football, boxing, or American sports such as baseball and American football. So how much do these guys actually make for what is essentially putting their bodies on the line? Well, it basically depends on who you are and what you do for the company, as there are 3 tiers to how you are paid. Obviously, the main way a fighter gets paid is through fighting. They will sign a contract to make a fixed amount for a certain number of fights. The 3 tiers are low, medium, and high. The lowest tier, reserved for the up-and-coming fighters and athletes not many people have heard of, will make between $10,000 and $30,000 per fight, with the top tier making anywhere from $500,000 to $3 million per fight. The best way to increase your pay is to win fights and increase your reputation inside the octagon, which will draw fans into paying for your brand and to watch you fight. Obviously, it's difficult to measure who fans pay to see, as there are many different fighters on one card, so it helps to have a big mouth in this sport and market yourself well. Just look at Conor McGregor and Paddy Pimblett as recent examples. What has Francis said then? Well, it seems the big fella isn't happy and hasn't been for some time. His beef with the UFC over his contract is well documented. The UFC even threatened to sue him if he doesn't return to action for the promotion following his win over Cyril Gane last month. Ngannou says his contract is done, but Dana White claims he has one more defense until he actually has completed it. As he has said many times, all he is seeking is a contract that is more befitting of a champion, and if he doesn't get what he has asked for, then there is that lucrative boxing fight he knows Jake Paul and company can easily offer him. But for now, Dana's playing hardball, and now so is Francis. Speaking on his YouTube channel recently, the current heavyweight champ said, "This is something that they don't like, but I have to look after myself. Try to do what is best for me. There's a lot of terms in that contract that I would like changed. I don't like them. The fact that it's a one-way contract and that I have no guarantee." Francis then went on to bemoan the fact that he has been ready to fight on numerous occasions in the past couple of years, but he has only been given 2 fights in 2 years, again saying that the UFC claims they can provide each fighter with 2 or 3 fights a year. It's probably more likely that nobody wants to get in the octagon with him, to be honest. What else did the Cameroonian say? Stay tuned to find out. Well, the champ didn't pull any punches and told his listeners he thought the UFC were doing it on purpose to back him into a corner, financially speaking. He says he feels like he is being frozen, so he could be hurried into an agreement, presumably for a less favorable deal. He went on to say that in effect, the UFC is the judge, jury, and prosecution when it comes to the contract and providing fights for him. At this point, he knows the contract very well, probably after scrutinizing it for so long. He also pointed out that the UFC shouldn't be able to tell him what he can and cannot do elsewhere to make money in relation to a potential boxing fight if, as they say, he is an independent contractor. He said, "Maybe because that's the way that doesn't guarantee me a monthly wage or doesn't give me health care or something. I don't feel like an independent contractor. I don't have that freedom. Freedom, which is something very important for me as well." I mean, he has a point, right? If he was in fact an independent contractor, then surely White would have no right to interfere in his talks with Jake Paul about a boxing fight. We are certainly not experts in contract law here, but that's just obvious, isn't it? What do you make of Ngannou's beef with the UFC? Do you think he should be free to pursue a boxing fight independent of the UFC? Let us know your thoughts below. And where is Jake Paul in all of this? Well, it turns out pretty central. Since extending his undefeated start in his fledgling boxing career by flatlining Tyron Woodley back in December, Paul has now extended his business interest to promoting fights. The YouTuber's behind the biggest women's boxing match in history, which takes place in Madison Square Garden at the end of April, featuring Ireland's Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano of Puerto Rico. And he has designs on even bigger fights in the future, targeting one Francis Ngannou. The former Disney star weighed in on the beef between Ngannou and White recently in a series of tweets aimed at getting right under the nose of Dana, which seemed to have the desired effect. He said, "Francis Ngannou deserves much better than the lies and disrespect Dana White have shown him and his manager. It's time for everyone to say F Dana White and support the men and women who put their bodies at risk to make him fat and rich." He ended the tweet with a hashtag which said F Dana. Big talk indeed. It's probable that Paul is just using Ngannou as a pawn in the beef between he and Dana as he looks to extend his fighting career and possibly transition into MMA. Stepping into the octagon is a completely different animal to boxing, however, as takedowns are legal, so there's a lot more to consider than just punching and evading. Can you see Paul transitioning over to MMA? Let us know below. Next up, one of our favorite people of the moment, it's Tai Tuivasa. After dispensing of Derek Lewis in brutal fashion a couple of weeks ago, Tai Tuivasa's been speaking about his future plans and a potential title fight this week. Bam Bam's on a 5-fight win streak, and people are starting to sit up and take notice of the man who has popularized a quite disgusting post-fight ritual, the shoey. After beating Lewis in his own backyard, Tuivasa returned to Dubai, where he currently lives, before heading back to Australia. He said he's looking forward to one thing more than anything else, to pick his son up from school, commenting, "Just to see his smile makes everything worth it. It's been awesome. I've been busy, but it's been good. Good to be on daddy duties, and I'm really loving it." After his destruction of Lewis, it's been suggested he is now in the conversation to take on Francis Ngannou for the title, but he might have to get past former champ Stipe Miocic first. And Dana White acknowledged Tuivasa's recent meteoric rise, telling UFC fans Tai is definitely in the top 3 or 4 fighters in the division. And Tuivasa said he is ready to do whatever it takes to challenge for the title, but joked that he can't get too fat. He said he feels as though he has been working hard for years now and deserves some time off, but surely right now a break is the last thing he needs, given the tear he's on in the heavyweight division. What do you guys make of Tuivasa's recent rise? And finally, Colby has been on. Colby Covington has recently expressed an interest in stepping up to middleweight to take on current king Israel Adesanya. Although Chaos is one of the best engines in the game, surely stepping up to take on a striker like Izzy isn't something he should really be considering. When you take into account the fact that he's been beaten twice by Kamaru Usman, the current welterweight champion, we don't really know what he expects to achieve from stepping up to take on Adesanya. Covington claimed that Adesanya is not a well-rounded fighter and that he couldn't keep up with my pace, which some fans have suggested is slightly inaccurate. What do you make of Covington's recent comments? Let us know below. As always, thanks for stopping by today, and remember to join us next time for some more fun and games. Also, don't forget to like and share our video. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for?